Well, everybody, welcome back. I want to say, I hope you guys are busy building. I see there's a lot of activity in those classrooms, but right now it's time for our college mentor Q&A. We have Catherine and Brianna who are going to introduce themselves, and then they're going to open the floor to you with your questions. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat, and I'm going to stop speaking and let Brianna, who's going to take it away for us.
Yeah, so good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brianna Mahan, and I am a sophomore at the University of Miami. I'm studying civil engineering, and I have a Spanish minor. My interests in engineering, which have kind of changed in the past weeks, are structural design. That's the one that's changed the most, I think, just based upon like more research, but that's more like the buildings and bridges and any like type of structure, I guess. And project management, which is, I like to think of it as more of like the business side of engineering and making sure that the projects that you're working on are going smoothly and that every team is on the same page, and that the project is done in a timely manner. And the last interest of mine is sustainability, which I'm sure you guys know is a very growing field in our world today. And it's really important to try to create new sustainable practices. And my involvement with Engineering Tomorrow has been pretty extensive. So I started out in high school. I was in an engineering and architecture program, and it was a 2 year program during my junior and senior year of high school. And during my junior year, I actually got to do a lot of the Engineering Tomorrow labs with my class because my teacher, she was on the board. So that's kind of how I found out about the company. So I think I've done this lab in person before. And then because of the impact that Engineering Tomorrow had on me and kind of deciding what I wanted to pursue in college, I decided to become a mentor last year. So I've been doing that for a little bit over a year. And then this past summer, I was very fortunate to be a curriculum development intern. So with the intern program, you can create new labs with your team. You'll develop improve old labs with your team. But my favorite project that I worked on over the summer was the electric vehicle and renewable energy competition, which is new this year. And basically, students will start with the Our Electric Vehicles Lab and do a couple other of our labs to improve that electric vehicle. And then the really cool part is that once all the students are finished in either April or May, they'll get to all come in person if that is possible and race their vehicles against each other. So, moving on, I talked a little bit about high school, but I went to a small private high school. I took a lot of AP courses, computer science, calculus, physics, chemistry. And that's one thing, if any of you guys are kind of trying to decide what classes you should be taking, I would highly recommend taking a lot of AP courses because even if the credit doesn't transfer to college, you'll kind of have a leg up over your peers once you get there and you have to retake those classes. And that happened to me, and it was totally fine. Like I mentioned before, that program that I was in it was called Engineering, Architecture, and Design for the Common Good, and that's kind of what got me into engineering. I had kind of always known that I was interested in math and science, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do with that. So the program really helped me hone in on my interests, and then um, my main like volunteer and service participation in high school was through the Fuller Center. I was the co-leader for that club, and if you guys have ever heard of Habitat for Humanity, it's basically the same thing. They create the like low income and affordable homes for low income families in like the general area. So that was really cool. And then some other things that I was involved in with high school were the National Honor Society for just for the regular one in Spanish, varsity soccer, basketball, and then I was a team manager. And then when I got to Miami, I decided to pursue a Spanish minor within the first few months. I have a scholarship, so I have a lot more flexibility in my schedule than a lot of other students do. So I kind of decided to, I wasn't originally going to do a Spanish minor, but since I've been taking it for so long, I decided why not continue with it. The main like club I'm involved in here on campus is the American Society of Civil Engineers, where I am the treasurer. So I do all the budgeting, all the money, and it's been a lot of work because we're working on our concrete canoe, where basically you had to build a whole concrete canoe from start to finish and race it. So it's a lot of time and effort that goes into that, but it's really rewarding to see your work like physically in person. And then some other things I'm involved with here on campus are the National Society of Black Engineers and the National Advancement for Colored People. And then on the side, just a couple of photos. The ones on the top are mainly from high school, in that program that I was talking about. There's that was the top one on the left is from a site tour. The one kind of in the middle was my senior independent project where I redesigned a houseboat to be more sustainable and affordable. And then actually on the right side, far right on the top, is my friend doing the like I guess a little bit of an advanced version of the 3D printing biomedical lab where you get to design your finger, but we had actually got to build a whole hand. And then the pictures on the bottom are from college. The two on the left side are from just events I've been able to attend through the American Society of Civil Engineers. The one on the in the middle is the tent that we have for our concrete canoe, and then the one on the far right is just from a structural lab class that I got to take last semester, where basically all you do is break things. So I've had a lot of experience, but I will turn it over to Catherine.
Hey everyone, my name is Catherine Zinkin. I'm a junior at the University of Notre Dame. I'm studying chemical engineering with minors in energy studies and engineering corporate practice. And within engineering, I've definitely had a variety of interests throughout my time in engineering. I'm really interested in renewable energy, and I'm also interested in the bio side of engineering, so pharmaceuticals and medical devices as well. And with ET, I have been a mentor for a little over a year now. So I have a timeline here of some of the things that helped me get interested in engineering. So in high school, I took some AP classes, some calculus, physics, biology, and chemistry. But I definitely didn't really know a lot about engineering. My high school didn't have a ton of extracurricular engineering opportunities. And so I was involved in things in my high school, such as cross country, or I built for Habitat for Humanity, and we had a dance marathon as well. But we didn't have as many engineering opportunities except for in my physics class, we had the opportunity to build a bridge, and I loved that. And it was my first time really seeing what engineering was and what it could be. And so I talked more to my physics professor or teacher, and she helped me learn more about engineering. And so I went to Notre Dame intending to be a mechanical engineer. I was super interested in biology, so I was hoping to do medical devices of some kind, but a lot of colleges have a first year engineering class where they um, give you the opportunity to explore different kinds of engineering. And so through that, I switched to chemical engineering after a few months at Notre Dame. My sophomore year, I got a little more involved in chemical engineering as I took more courses and learned more about what it was. I joined an undergraduate research lab on campus. So it's a renewable energy lab where we work on lithium sulfur batteries that will later be used for electric vehicles. And so I've spent a lot of time working in that lab, and that's been a great learning experience. And then this past summer, I had the opportunity to go abroad to London, and there I worked in a carbon capture plant. So that was a really cool opportunity to have the hands-on experience of running and operating that plant with a lot of my classmates. And that was my first time having that plant experience. And that was super exciting. And I now hope to go in industry in the energy side. And next summer, I will be working actually at a pharmaceutical internship, which I'm excited for. So definitely overall still exploring my engineering interests, but I've definitely grown as I've learned more about what chemical engineering is. And so I'm super excited about seeing what the future holds. And then here's just some pictures of, um, on the left, you can see I'm in lab there. And then that's one of the films that I made for the inner layer of the battery. And then as you go to the right, there's more lab photos. And then on the bottom, there's some photos of the carbon capture plant in London. And it was a four-story plant, which was really um, big and took a long time to figure out where everything was, but I really love that. And then on the bottom right, there's a picture of me in the marching band. So I just wanted to show that there is time for a lot of activities in college as well, in addition to engineering.
So I'll stop sharing my screen. If you guys have any questions, it might be easier to type them in the chat, or if you wanted to unmute, that's totally fine as well. But we have about 20 minutes to kind of answer anything you guys might have.
Well, I'm going to start off with a question for both of you guys to answer. How did you guys decide on the school? Because I know, Brianna, you said you went to school in New York and you're now in Florida. Catherine, how did you decide your school and what was your thought process on the application process and selecting your college?
I can start off with that. I'll be honest, I had no clue where I wanted to go. I did not have a first choice. I didn't have a top school. I kind of just applied to variety of places in different areas that had like there was three things that I was basically looking for in a college. Number one, I went to a very small high school. There was only about 72 students in my graduating class. So that kind of small class size, and I had gone there from sixth grade to the time I was a senior. So I'd spent a lot of time in classes of 20, no more than 25 students. So having a college of engineering that was relatively small was important to me, because I know like no college class is going to be like super small, but at Miami, the civil engineering department is really tiny. There's I think in my sophomore class, about 8 or 9 of us right now, so I pretty much already know all of my peers. So that was really important for me. The second thing, I am an only child and I'm really close to my parents. And even though I didn't want to stay in New York, I definitely wanted to be near some sort of family. So every school that I applied to, I had some sort of resource, whether it was like an immediate family member or just a distant family member who I could go to if I felt the need or like I just needed a break from school. And then the third thing, I think it wasn't really a requirement when I was applying, but as I started visiting schools, I really paid attention to how, like, my tour guides made me feel and how they were answering my questions and how, like, communicative they were with me because, I toured one school and it was completely opposite from my experience at Miami. Like, my tour guides here, it was just the 2 of them and my parents and myself, and, like, they didn't know anything about engineering because they were, like, law students, but they were really helpful in terms of like, okay, if you have a question about this, you can talk to this person. And they were very honest with me about their experiences. So I think that's ultimately what helped me choose Miami in the like overall is like how I felt when I came to visit.
Yeah, I definitely so I'm from Indiana and Notre Dame is in Indiana, so a big factor for me was staying somewhat close to home. I was a senior in college during COVID, so I unfortunately did not have the opportunity to visit colleges, but I did some online tours, and those also from my experience were really helpful in just hearing about what different students' experiences were and if I could see myself there. So some of my favorite things that helped me choose Notre Dame were definitely the collaborative environment in the engineering school. I think that all the students and professors are really there to help each other learn and grow, and everyone is willing to help. And so that was a major factor in helping me decide to go to Notre Dame. And also that students are very involved outside of engineering. So I love engineering and I love being a part of engineering clubs, but I also definitely have interests outside of engineering, whether that's in the band or I have an on-campus job. And it involved other clubs such as intramural sports as well. And so having that balance has been really important to me as well. And then just definitely financial aid is a consideration as well. And so that was another definitely factor in my decision for college.
I see one question in the chat from Mullen High School. What will clean energy look like in the future? And what do you think will be the best alternative energy source for the future and why? Now, I can't say I have a definite answer to this question. I don't know too much about like the specifics about what it will look like in the future, like what the best energy source is. But I think, in my personal opinion, definitely solar and wind energy. And if you guys want, I mean, well, this is like the lab that you guys are doing. And like there's also the electric vehicle lab. So if you wanted to learn a little bit more about how to power a car with those type of things, I'm sure the student workbooks have a lot of information about what the future of that will look like. But Catherine, do you have any ideas of what it will look like in the future?
Yeah, so in my experience, in my lab experience, it's a lot of the energy issues have to do with energy storage. So with a lot of different kinds of renewable energy, so solar energy, for example, is only generated during the day, or wind energy is only generated when it's windy. And so finding a way to store that energy is super important to the future of renewable energy. And so in my experience, I've had experience with the lab with batteries. And so looking at batteries and how we can make them last longer and be able to like store power for longer has been really exciting. So definitely looking at the energy storage piece in addition to the energy generation is really important for the future.
Catherine, can I ask you to just add on a little bit? I was interested to hear that you worked at a carbon capture plant, and that's a pretty new technology. We're still working on improving the effectiveness of those processes. Can you talk a little bit about what you did while you were working there?
Yeah, absolutely. So at the carbon capture plant, if anyone has never heard of carbon capture before, it's taking a stream of gas, so whether that's from a power plant that's super concentrated in carbon dioxide, and finding a way to get the carbon dioxide out of that air so that it is released with less greenhouse gases. And so finding a way to strip the carbon out of the gas and then store it somewhere else. So at the carbon capture plant that I worked at, it was taking a stream of gas from the nearby power plant, which was really cool, and then getting it from 14% carbon dioxide down to 2%. And so that was also a very small scale carbon capture plant. It was meant for students to learn. And so finding a way to scale that up is definitely a factor too, but it was a really cool experience just to see how that would work in real life.
Thank you.
The I see another question. What is your best piece of advice for those that are interested in engineering but are unsure of a specific area to study? I mean, Catherine, do you want to start with this one and then I can chime in?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that a lot of colleges have first year engineering programs that help you explore different types of engineering. So they'll teach you about all the different types, whether that's civil engineering, chemical engineering, mechanical, electrical. Um, and that's a really great first start, but also reaching out and talking to people, whether that's professors, teachers, upperclassmen, older students, I think is also super helpful in helping with the discernment process. But it does take time and learning. I know a lot of engineers do switch between the different engineering majors as they learn more. So definitely keeping an open mind and continuing to explore your interests as well.
Yeah, and the other thing that I would add, I don't know if anyone has participated in one of our wrap-up sessions, but we have a slide that's about all these organizations that colleges have for students to be a part of. They're typically professional organizations with college chapters. My favorite part about that is knowing like older students. Number one, to tell you like what their experience has been, just like Catherine said, and like what classes to take. But also in high school, one thing that I didn't really do so much is like if you've seen that slide, you can literally just look up the organization and just see all the information about what they do and what they're like what they specify in and things like that. Just do a little bit of research. I also one thing that I did do in high school when I was kind of on the fence about what specific type of engineering is I just went on YouTube and I was like, okay, day in the life of a civil engineer, and I got a lot, actually a lot more information than I thought from that. So just doing those small little pieces of research is going to be super helpful. And then the other thing I would add is that I personally don't have experience with this, but when I was applying, everyone was kind of telling me, if you think you want to go to this school, but you don't know what college specifically you want to apply to, they would always tell me to apply into the College of Engineering as an undecided engineering major because it tends to be easier to switch out of the College of Engineering rather than to transfer into it. So if you think, okay, like engineering I think I want to do engineering, but I don't exactly know which one. I would definitely recommend applying to the College of Engineering at whatever school it is you want to be. And if you end up not liking it, that's totally fine. Again, you can switch. But once you're in that school, it makes it a lot easier to switch within the majors rather than, applying to a College of Arts and Sciences and then saying, okay, I actually am more interested in engineering than I thought. Now let me try to get into that school. There's another question. How do your college networks differ from high school? Um, I I don't know. I don't want to say it's like too different. Obviously, like college is on a much larger scale. I know so many more people and have so many more connections than I did in high school. Um, but I think it has grown. The biggest difference is how it has grown in the past like 1.5 years versus how it grew in all 4 years of in all 4 years of high school. Because like freshman and sophomore year, I wasn't really thinking too much about like my future and my career and like I need to grow my network now to sort of have these connections. But I mean, I think that's half of what I think about now. Like when it comes to turning finding internships, like okay, I know this person who knows this person who can contact that person. So I think the biggest like difference for me is like how big it is and how quickly it has expanded. But Catherine, I don't know if you have a different experience.
Yeah, I definitely agree that my network in college has increased from my network in high school. I think a big change for me was connections with professors and teachers. I think in high school, I didn't spend as much time reaching out to teachers and going to get extra help. But in college, I've definitely spent a lot of time going to office hours and talking to professors and getting that extra help from them there. And so I think that meeting more professors and hearing more about their research experiences has been a big change in college. And that's been great for my discerning process also, back to the previous question, because um, I met some professors in chemical engineering and I loved what they were doing and was super excited about their research. And so that also helped me decide that chemical engineering was the place that I wanted to study. So
So I'm going to hop in with another question for you ladies. There's something that was on both of your slides. You guys have a lot of different groups that you're part of. Catherine, you mentioned the band. Brianna, you're doing this concrete canoe. How do you guys manage your time with all of your full course load and then all of these extracurriculars that you guys are participating in?
It's definitely a struggle. I am Last semester was because last semester was my first semester as treasurer, and I just did not realize how much work it was going to be. And that's not to say that, if you join an organization, you're going to be swamped with work because you can always just be a member of the organization. You don't have to be on the executive board. But just in general, things that help me manage my time having such a busy schedule is I use Outlook Calendar religiously. There's nothing if it's not on my Outlook calendar, it's not getting done probably. And also like just taking time to, I've learned this more recently, but taking time to myself and like every night I try to think like, okay, what did I get done today? What anything additional that I have to do? Also saving some free time for yourself is going to help like mentally a lot because engineering is very demanding and you're going to have a lot of coursework and it's probably going to be more coursework than your peers and you're going to kind of be like, well, that's not fair. But just kind of taking the time to like be forgiving and give yourself the time you need to like rest and relax and then get back into the work. I think those are kind of the two main things that help me like mentally stay sane and then also stay on top of my work.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree. I think that managing time has been one of the bigger challenges with, especially when I was transitioning from high school to college, is figuring out how to take on the extra course load and also have time for other things I was interested in. I think for me, a main thing has been prioritizing. So prioritizing schoolwork when it needs to get done, or if there's a really important deadline for something for a club, making sure you get that done first. And setting those, like Brianna said, like on the calendar. I'm a big Google Calendar person. And so having that calendar with everything you need to get done. And yes, also making sure you do make time for school is really important, but making time for taking care of yourself also, it's great for the long run. So keeping those things in mind. And then we have another question in the chat. How many years do you think it would take to build the infrastructure to go completely green? And how much money do you think it would take? That is a really good question. Um, I do not have a great estimation on the amount of money. Definitely an expensive process, but and for going green, I know that a lot of different companies set different goals to be carbon neutral. I know my college in particular has set a goal of 2050 to be carbon neutral. And so making steps towards that, but I'm not sure exactly. Brianna, do you have
I'm gonna be
any?
honest, I don't know. I think for how much money it would take, that I feel like would be dependent on where you are and like what you're doing to make like whatever it is you go completely green, but I would have to do a little bit more research on that one.
I'll tell you what, I'll add that to the questions for our keynote speaker this afternoon as well, and see if he can shed any more light on it. I think it's a great question and something a lot of people are wondering. My initial reaction is maybe that the answer is that we don't go completely green, because I think in the future it's going to be an all of the above approach to trying to provide enough power for our energy needs while also caring for our planet. But let's wait and see. To be determined this afternoon.
Thanks for hopping in there, Joanna. So I know we have about oh, we got a question here from Delta High School. It says, how much time will it take to go 85% green? And again, this is a very specific question. I don't know if you guys have the answer for this, Joanna. Maybe you're going to have to add that to your list of questions for later. But thanks for the question, Delta High School. I appreciate that. We have about 5 minutes before we're going to have to close the Q&A and get back to the breakout room so they can keep building. But I wanted to ask Catherine and Brianna, any advice for these high school students who are in this lab today, who may be interested in renewable energy? What next steps can you take as a high school student to continue this journey?
Oh, sorry, Catherine, you can go ahead.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think that deciding what you're interested in for college is a great first step. So exploring different colleges and seeing what programs they have available. So engineering, there's a lot of ways to get involved in renewable energy within engineering. But even if your interests lie in business or other sciences, there's a lot of great ways to get involved in renewable energy. So doing that research when you're applying to colleges or schools or anything you're planning to do after graduation. So keeping that goal in mind. And then also just reaching out. I think that's the biggest thing that I've learned as I've been going through school is reaching out. There's lots of people who are willing and happy to talk about what they do and are happy to share advice. So I would definitely say feel free to reach out to any of your mentors, teachers, or people in your lives about future plans.
My first piece of advice would be something I kind of touched on earlier. And if Carly, you wanted to share that slide that I was talking about, if you're still kind of on the fence about what you want to do, this is like the slide from the renewable energy. So any of these organizations on the left side, if you're kind of like, oh, okay, I'm not quite sure what they do, or I want to just know a little bit more, just go on their website. So little things like that to kind of hone in on what exactly you're interested on. And then in terms of high school, you know, it's difficult because obviously you wanna do well and you wanna get good grades, and that's super important, but also you wanna enjoy your time. Like, these friendships are gonna last forever. I'm like, my high school friends are my best friend ever, and I love them. Like, just enjoy your time. Obviously keep up the good work in school. Do like get involved in different things, have a very well-rounded experience in high school because oftentimes, like, I see this a lot with my friends in college, like, we're engineering majors, so kind of myself too. Everything we do is, like, engineering focused, and, you know, that's great and all, but like Catherine was saying, it's very important to have a very balanced schedule and a very balanced life, so if you can kinda start that now in high school and think, "Okay, you know, this is something I'm interested in now, can I continue this on in college?" That would be really important um, to kind of, I guess, figure out now so you don't have to do it when you get in college. But yeah, the main thing I would say is just have a good time, keep up the good work, and don't give up. It can be difficult, especially as an engineering major. Sometimes I'm like, this is too hard and I can't do this, but just have faith in yourself and know that you can do it. And if it's something that you're truly interested in doing and you want to, you know, spend the rest of your life doing these things, that it'll all be okay in the long run.
Well, I'm gonna hop in here. We had one more question in chat, but it's one of these that I think is gonna end up in Joanna's lap for the wrap up. So I'm gonna just state it so you can hear it, Joanna. It's how long do you think it will take to shift from nuclear energy to clean energy? So something to think about for the wrap up. But I want to hop in and say thank you to Catherine and to Brianna for leading such a great Q&A, for the amazing questions from all of our schools. And we're going to open up those breakout rooms again, and you guys can get back to building. And we're going to get back to the main room for our wrap up, where Joanna's going to have a lot of questions to answer, but also where we want to see your designs. So please get those groups ready to share, and you will be back for the wrap up at 3:30. Again, thank you to Brianna and to Catherine, and get back to building, everybody.